Hey guys, brand new podcast. Yeah. Maybe I should SSR this.
ASMR?
ASMR?
Yeah.
Ass to what? Ass to mouth to
Audio sensory meridian response.
Hey guys, brand new podcast. Pickles. I'm on the road. Go to bertcast.com to see my tour dates. We are in St. Louis, Chicago, Detroit, and Milwaukee. Coming up, Minneapolis, Rockford, and Cleveland. Cleveland, I will be at the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. But more importantly, my buddy, Dane Cook, will be at the Wang October
29th and 30th.
29th and 30th. Get your tickets. He's filming a special. He is my guest. He really needs no introduction. We talk about everything you think we would talk about and some things you really wouldn't expect us talking about. We talk about acting. We talk about movies. We talk about serious acting. We talk about directing. We talk about him being the face of stand-up comedy. And we talk about how he seemingly kind of just dodged dealing with haters, like and kind of rose above it, which is so fucking insane when you think about it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to waste your time. Maybe one of the best comics of our generation. Put your hands together for my buddy, Dane Cook.
This one here?
No, the top one to the right.
This one?
Yeah.
Can I see it for just a
Yeah,
quick
of course.
second?
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
you're on a time crunch.
No, I'm not on time crunch at all.
Let's see this real quick. Yeah, I've been playing since I was 15, so it's like...
I forgot you can legit play.
I love guitar.
Do you still play?
All the time.
Here, hop
You know what
on.
it is, dude? It's the one thing... Sorry, I stole too much.
Yeah.
It's the one thing that... It's literally the one thing that... I'm not competitive with it with myself. I'm not trying to like...
You cool if we start rolling?
Yeah.
That's what they say about hobbies.
And if there's a water,
Here's
I'll
right
take
there,
it
right there.
somewhere.
Liquid
This is
death.
what,
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
That's what they say about hobbies, is that it gets your mind out of being in the bit, like all the other stuff that comes along with the business,
Right.
like tour dates, sales, and all that shit. When you have a hobby.
breakdowns.
I just had a fucking
What's that sound?
fucking.
You know what we need? We need like a sound to legend thing at the bottom, like what each sound actually represents to us.
Jesus, I've got a bunch of them right now. But that's what they said. I had a therapist who was like, "You need a hobby," and I was like, "Oh, I do stand up." And then she's like, "That's not." He's like, "That's not a hobby." I go, "Well, I write jokes. That's my thing."
Right.
And he goes, "That's not a hobby." I go, "Edit videos." He's
Yeah.
like, "No, that's still work."
Right.
And I went through the list and I was like, "I wrote a book. I'm writing a movie." And he's like, "That's all work. You need something that."
It's like, here's the center, and
Yeah.
it's like one line. I did that for years too. Before
Yeah.
my therapy, I was doing the same thing. I was like, yeah, no, I everything was affiliated with a foundation of.
Why would I put any energy into anything that isn't my career? But that's the thing is, it's all of a sudden you're just untethered and
Yes.
you're being creative.
Yeah, and it's, again, for me, when I'm playing, it's literally the only thing that I haven't said, oh, how should I put this into the whole,
Yeah.
kit and caboodle, right? It's like its own separate lane. You know what used to be that way for me too is video games, because I grew up like, I was such an introvert that I would run home and I had ColecoVision, I had Intellivision,
Yeah.
I had all those fucking early consoles.
We're
Then
the same age. I remember all of those.
Yeah, and then once I got Nintendo, or in Boston, fucking Nintendo.
Fucking Nintendo.
I gotta go and play that fucking Mario kid. Once I got into that, it was like, that was my total escape away from anxiety, because I had some pretty crippling anxiety.
I just heard that you talking about you having anxiety and I was like, what? I was like that because it's funny. I have anxiety. I've talking about it a lot lately. I'm in therapy again for the first time in a while.
You're in therapy again for the first time?
I go in and out.
This sounds like a bad movie tag for a B movie. He's in therapy again for the first time. It's like Groundhog's Day meets Kramer versus Kramer.
Oh God.
And so how are you feeling about it? Being back in there and digging in?
I'm a lot better than I have felt. Like at certain points in my therapy.
Are you hammering it, or are you just kind of sitting back and exploring? I've gone through both phases.
I think I'm hammering it right now.
Are you leaning in towards your therapist like you're trying to figure out how to win a football game, being you're down by 2 TDs with a minute left? Yeah. Are you like this? Yeah, I want to try to get to that. What is that? Why do I do that? I thought that way my whole life. Oh, right. It's like you're on that mission to go. What is the thing that centers me?
The only thing my wife and him are thinking that I need SSRIs, like just because I have anxiety, and it's just this overlaying anxiety. But this weekend I flew, so it's the pandemic. I think ultimately is I have been somewhat agoraphobic of being in. I don't mind doing a theater or like doing a show on stage. That doesn't hit me. It's getting to the airport and being around strangers and watching people behave in manners that I find unacceptable, and then I start melting down, and then and so it showed up when we flew out to Vegas.
Right.
It was there a little bit the morning I was in Vegas going to Austin, and it wasn't there at all today, and I was like, oh, okay, we're back.
And what do you think quelled it? Masturbation.
No, I wish. By the way, I actually thought about listening. I thought about listening to porn on my phone to try to get my mind, like just listening to the porn. Right. Just have it playing in my pocket.
Yeah,
have my
what category would you?
It would have to be some ethnicity. I need someone talking.
This is the best ambient sound to fall asleep to. What are you doing tonight? Ocean waves? Maybe rain on the roof. I'm gonna listen to some of these Asian threesomes that I've been.
Can I tell you, this happened to me a long time ago. I was in a hotel room in Sacramento, and I heard this couple fucking, and the woman was clearly a black woman. She's like, get this pussy. And the guy was not saying a fucking word.
Okay.
And I'm just sitting, I listened to them. Fucking, like,
you knew it was a black woman just based on that?
Just get this pussy. You get this pussy. And I was like, holy shit. They go to the mall. They go to the mall. We lived, it was right across the street from the mall. They open the door to the thing, and I open my door. I was like, I gotta see this couple. And it's the black chick. And I go, okay, that makes sense.
Right.
And then a skinny white dude comes out, and I go, that's why he wasn't talking. But when I saw him, I went, that's it. Like, I figured it out. And he was like, figured out what? And I was like, nothing.
Case closed.
Yeah. No, I was listening to a bunch of your interviews because I was like, I don't want to try to other stuff.
Wait, you went from listening to porn sounds maybe to some of my interviews?
On the plane, I was listening to some of your interviews. Yeah. I pivoted over to you. and you talked about anxiety, and I was like, I never fucking knew that.
Dude, bad. Really bad. And you know what? The same thing that you were saying is for a lot of years, it was I'm fine at the gig. I feel relaxed. I don't feel pressure at the show.
Yeah.
But the travel from and to. But you know what? When I was a kid, very quick story is when I left my house to go to school in the morning, there was a tree that I called the throw up tree. And if I could make it past the throw up tree, I would be okay at school. Yeah. But a lot of days I'd be fucking leaning on that tree at the bottom of Herd Road, taking those deep breaths and then being like, I'm going to puke. I got it. And I'd turn around and go home, and my mom would already be in the, like, moms know shit. She'd be in the door. Like, I had a feeling today was going to be a rough day. It's always been the travel in between. Once I'm in school, if they said, get up in front of people, I was actually more comfortable there. I think that's why I was drawn to stand up too. It was like something about up there, the pressure pushes everything in to be compact.
Yeah.
And I can live in that. It's the getting from A to B that you start. I don't know. Do you ruminate a lot?
That's all I do.
Like ruminate about what's to be, or ruminate about things that happened?
Both. Fuck. I just did Rogan yesterday. I did 5 hours, and I don't remember the last 2 hours. And I was like, what did I say?
Yeah.
On a platform where everyone's waiting for someone to slip up. I was like, I just was blackout drunk. Who knows what the fuck I said?
Right. Yeah. No, there's no, that's the worst version is when, I mean, listen, if you're ruminating too far about what's gonna happen or not happen, I think it's harder, to do both and to already be thinking about like, what did I say? Or what did yesterday? Or I hope that podcast I didn't come off wrong, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like you're really beating yourself up unnecessarily.
I do it all the time. I do it. I know I did it with you one time. I said something when we went to go see a movie. I remember this, and it's like little things. Like I'll say something and then I'll go, God damn it. Did that come off? I didn't upset him, did I? It was me, you and Gary went and saw a movie, and I said something, and you were like, what the fuck's that supposed to mean? And I was like, no. And then I left, and I was like, God damn it, what did I?
No.
But I do that all the time. Like I think I say things, and I say things, and I ruminate about it, and go, why the fuck would I do that? I remember one time I went and did radio.
By the way, I don't remember that at all. This would be the moment where I'd be like, I want to talk to you about that, Bert, because I've been carrying that around for a very long time.
Yeah.
So you're forgiven by the justification of I don't fucking remember any of that. I don't remember you saying something that ever ticked me off.
But I do that. Like I remember doing TV in Tampa one time, and they were like, tell us about Fresh Baked Video Games. I go, it's canceled. And they're like, what? And I was like, you don't. I go, did you watch it? They go, why did it get canceled? I go, did you watch it? And they go, I don't even know what channel it's on. I go, that's why it's canceled. And then I got home, and I was like, why do I do that? Like, what if they were going to pick it up and I just ruined the what if they were maybe canceling it? Like, and so I think I do that a lot, and I talk pretty recklessly. So
I had breakthrough moments because I went into the lean in therapy. I did therapy for a while. That was kind of like the kickback and that's interesting, or asking questions about other people's, you know what I mean? Hey, can I ask you, why do people, and it was always about things that I was observing.
Yeah.
But when I finally really dug into like, what is my trauma? When did I establish it? And once I knew what happened as a kid that kept me off kilter. See, I thought I was on steady ground. Once I learned what I survived growing up, it made the rest of the world start to do this, because I could then realize, oh fuck, when the world was when the chaos had settled for me, that's when I was anxious, because growing up as a adult child of an alcoholic and not knowing what dad I was going to get, we always had to be in like battle royale mode, prepared for like, going to be a good night, it's going to be a rough night, and it kept you in a constant state of like revved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My mom would fucking sleep with one foot on the floor, because if he came home and he was fit to be tied, it was going to be a crazy night.
I only know your dad as a jolly guy.
And he was, until he imbibed too much, and then a lot of his old tapes, all of his shit would come up.
Really?
So once I figured that out, and I could really like rip at what was my capsizing moment as a kid, I started to become, I started becoming more present and forgiving of yesterday, not thinking so much about tomorrow. Last maybe 5 years, I've been pretty present. A little bit of anxiety, but.
So did you do that in therapy and figure it out?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what my trauma thing is. I'll tell you the one thing that really freaks me out. And I don't know but this is the thing, that the underlying thing for me is I'm waiting for. Do you ever like been in the mall and then you hear someone's kid start choking? The sound the mom makes when she really needs help, like help, and
right?
That untethered emotional moment, I feel like is always on the cusp of happening. And in those panic moments where I'm just like I don't know. When you said the mall, my mom was agoraphobic, but my mom had like a myriad of phobias. Really?
We couldn't go through the tunnel in Boston because if there was traffic, she would lose it. She had a lot of fear.
Really?
We would go to the mall. If we were on the second floor of the mall, she would get that thing where she'd feel like she was going to fall off the balcony.
Yeah.
Grab me, pull me against Sears, and we'd be like against the wall, and she'd be like, I feel like I'm going to fall off, and that would make me want to jump. People who feel like they're going to fall want to jump because they're so scared they're going to fall. And we'd have to like slink along the wall and go into the store and go down inside the store.
Holy shit.
So you said mall, and immediately I remembered having to help my mom as a teenager to get away from those traumatic moments.
And did your mom drink?
Like very briefly.
Yeah.
Like Kahlua and Bert once in a while at the show to be like woo woo.
Yeah.
But no, didn't drink at all.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And do you think your dad's drinking is the reason you didn't drink?
As I've gotten a little bit older, I think so, because not so much of more the good people around me that were like, if you can focus on the things that you love, you have a real shot at making them come to fruition, but that drinking sometimes gets in the way, right?
Yeah.
And they try to prepare me, if I'm gonna do that, then maybe don't go to excess, because it was like a contest to see who could be the drunkest of all the men in our family.
Really?
I think it was just something in them that was like, I don't know, some old school Boston thing where it's like, you can't just have 2 drinks. You gotta fucking, let's go.
Yeah.
Get a drink, and then you gotta pile all the cans up and make a fucking can pyramid. And then somebody's gonna knock it down and be like, what the fuck, Lou? And then there's gonna be an argument. And, the kids have to be like whisked away. Like you just see like, come on, let's go, let them do their thing. And it was just this constant state of weird one-upsmanship and regret. And as I got a little bit older, into my 20s, the first sign I had of like, I'm going to be okay, was doing gigs, feeling like I had purpose, going home, and then not needing something after to fill that void. Whether it was like the show's over, or did I do well? Did I not do well? I never needed anything. I just ruminated and thought about like, I'd get probably anxious just based on like, I sucked, or I wish that was better, or whatever, but never having to put something in that space was the best decision I ever made.
I was
a Pisces. I'm sorry. No, go ahead. I'm interrupting the questions.
I was
on the Aries cusp.
By the way, I'm a Scorpio.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm very vindictive. My wife was trying to explain it to me, but like, if you hurt me, I kind of need to hurt you back.
Right.
And I was talking to my wife today, and she was
That's
like,
a Scorpio trait.
I think so. I'm pretty sure.
You've made it one.
I made it one. I'm a bad person, because if you hurt me, I'm not confrontational, so I won't say anything to you.
Yes.
But
and so you can't go, you know what? I want to do something to level the playing field, but you don't go, but the energy that they created with doing what they did is going to take care of them.
You are amazing at it. You're amazing at making sure you're protected. Like if I said something that hurt your feelings, you go, hey man, I don't like that.
Immediately.
I don't say that. Then I get my feelings hurt, and then I store it, and I wait until a moment that we can get even. It is so unhealthy. I said to my wife today, she said something about, I don't know, what are you and Dane similar guys? I said, oh no. If I was Dane, I would consistently bring up that everyone needed to thank me for me changing comedy. I would bring that up all the time. I go, it would actually bother me if I was overlooked at the way people are running their businesses, not to get a nod every time you post a fucking promo video to go, hey, just so you know, you're welcome. Like, and she said, what the fuck? And I go, I feel like that for you sometimes, where I go, we were all doing something. We were all like walking around in circles looking at our feet as comics. And you decided to see what was in the darkness and try something different.
You know why I don't care?
I'm dying to know why you don't
Rolling
care.
Stone would always put like, let me roll it back a little bit. I had something happen early in my life or career somewhere in like school or something, where not only did I not win, but I was not even like in the running.
Yeah.
And I got a little bit further in my career, and I met my mentor, Frank Roberts, and he was one of the first people to be like, you don't want to win things. He's like, you don't even want to think about winning. You don't want to focus on praise or any of that stuff. You just want the love that you feel from yourself and from your family. He said, because it's really bad luck. First place, a big shiny award.
Yeah.
And he kind of almost like instilled some fear in me of like, don't expect anything from if you're the first person to the finish line. If you happen to be like, oh fuck, I'm first, I made it. Appreciate that you did something for yourself and then move on. So I've never been one to linger on that, but when people say like, oh, you fucking set up the blueprint, it's always like, well, appreciate it. I'm gonna go over here now.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was telling Joe, and I were talking about you on the podcast yesterday, and I said I sat with Dane in his office when you lived over on Fountain.
That's right.
And we were playing guitar, we were messing around, and you were turning around and chatting on your computer.
Yeah.
And you introduced me to MySpace. You said, this will change your career.
Right. I remember we talked about that. And I was like trying to tell you like, this is how your top 8. And
I was like, good luck, Dane. And then like a week later, I'm in Venice, and these dudes are doing coke programming MySpace, and they're like, hey, do you know Dane Cook? And I said, I do.
That's right. You told me that.
Yeah. And I was like, and they were like, you should try getting on my MySpace. And I was like, was like, guys, I'm a real guy. I don't talk on the internet. I talk to you like this. What a fucking idiot I am.
It was me and Tila Tequila at the fucking head of the pack.
What happened to Tila Tequila?
I don't know. She didn't fucking. She was on that though. She was huge with that.
God,
she was the first influencer. In my eyes, she was the first real influencer. Paris Hilton gets the credit. Tila Tequila was doing it on MySpace right around that same time. I was doing it with comedy, and she was like flashy and fucking brash and sexy, and it's like that was her, shtick.
God, Tila Tequila, I forgot about that.
I wrote her one time. I remember being like, I need more sexy on my page. She's like, I need more funny. I'm like, I was already thinking before, like, you guys now are so great about cross-pollinating, and with you're so entrepreneurial in the way in way back then, it was like, I wonder if we should try to figure out how like TNA and comedy can join forces and double our numbers.
Do a collab.
Collab.
It's so funny. I was telling Leanne, that was a game changer but I don't think a lot of people noticed it until like 8 years later. I don't think people started applying it because it's a very vulnerable place to do something
Musicians
different. Jumped
in quicker, but here's what happened back then with comics. For whatever reason, I think you probably see this too. I feel like the graduating class, like 2 behind us, is way more early adopters of cross-pollinating and supporting each other.
Yeah.
We were a little bit more like, if somebody got a little bit ahead, I think there was still too much ego in our graduating class. And the fact I got there, quote, first, I know, and I know this, I won't name names, people that came to me were like, I just didn't want to say I was following your fucking lead, so I didn't do it. So they purposely shot themselves in the foot because they didn't want to be like the other dude who is now going like, you're trying to catch up to Dane and his numbers and his thing. And how many morning DJs at that time were like, why are you doing what Dane does? He comes through town, he sells out. And that pissed so many people off that they couldn't lean into it and go, yeah, I should probably partake. They were like, no, I'm not going to do that path. But that was the only path.
Yeah. Oh, I had that
point.
I had that conversation with I won't name names, but a couple of my friends that are big podcasters and comedians. And they were like, what are you doing?
This is the only podcast we've both said, I won't name names. I don't think I've ever heard a podcast not name every fucking name.
Let's name names. Ari Shafir. And so Ari was like, why are you doing fucking stories? It's so stupid. What are you doing stories? And I said, take a look at this. I said, this swipe up. And I showed him. I said, these 2,400 people all hit that link.
Yeah.
And they just bought tickets. And he went, wait, how do I do that to mine? I go, you need to get more followers. I think at the time, I think he could do it then.
Yeah.
And he was like, and then all of a sudden he was like, oh, that works. And you're like, yeah, you just got to show people sometimes and be vulnerable. The hardest part is being vulnerable.
But it was also too, that era was coming out of comics don't fucking talk to the fans and meet and greet.
Yeah.
That was like, okay, Richard Jeni. Loved Richard Jeni.
Yeah,
Richard Jeni fucking shared a lot of stage time. My early landing in LA. Richard Jeni's on a lot of shows that we did together. I remember Richard Jeni. And by the way, full transparency, we were not very close. I tried to be close with him, and he was a guy that just kind of was set in his ways, but I tried to like break him down. Good to see you, man. Like, oh, it's super nice. Yeah. And I could never really get there. And then about a year before he sadly passed away, he hit me up. He called me. And he was like, hey, what's with this MySpace? Like, what is it? And I was like, I would love to help you, man. I will. And we talked a couple times, and I tried to kind of set him in motion, but he was still of the belief, like, why should I let the fans like reach out to, I go, it's like a fan mail. It's like email, but electric. I'm trying to explain it like, to Richard Jeni, one of the best comedy writers, of generations before. And yet there was a resentment to like, oh, but I don't want to necessarily talk to the fans. Because I think people thought at that time, I'm giving them access to my integrity. They're going to try to change me. Yeah. They're going to try to tell me, I didn't like that joke. And we don't want to hear that. Yeah. You know what I mean? But that's the world. Fuck it. People are going to like it or not. So I don't think this is going to sound bizarre. I miss him, by the way. Richard
he was funny as shit. I remember the day after 9/11, he got up on stage at the Improv. They had me host.
Yeah.
And he got up and he said, he goes, said something. They're worried that they got George Bush is going to invade over Iraq. They're afraid they have nuclear weapons. You think they have nuclear weapons? And let me ask you something, George Bush. I don't think they're holding back. He goes, I don't think they're like, well, let's not throw everything at them. and then I ran into him. I ran into him at Caroline's one night, and I told him, I said, I think about that joke all the time. And he goes, I don't even remember it.
Oh wow.
And I was like, oh, can I have it?
I was just in Boston with Bert for a buddy of ours who passed away, a comedian, Wayne Previty.
Yeah, Wayne.
And did you know Wayne at all?
No, but Bill had talked about him.
Man. So it's like thinking of Richard, thinking of Wayne, obviously, Norm recently. It's like, I remember growing up and asking, I grew up Catholic. I asked the priest, I said, does God have a sense of humor? Because I had like jokes about Catholicism and all that. Yeah. Of course, God has a sense of humor. And like in my mind, I'm like, if God really had a sense of humor, if a comic dies, they should be allowed from wherever they are to have one tweet or something a week that we all have access to. Just waiting like, okay, I can't wait for that weekly tweet. What is it going to be? What's the topic?
Yeah.
It's almost a cruel joke to have any comic not have some form of, still creating, even in passing. It's like you want that new piece of material based on something that's happening in the world or in the news. And I was thinking about that when I was back in Boston with Bert about the Wayne thing. It's like, fuck, that voice, you won't get to hear that next thought.
I think of that with Norm a great deal, because I think he I really enjoyed listening to him. Yeah. Like just listening.
Did you gig with him quite a bit?
No, I only knew him. I knew him from just hanging out. Like I tweeted something really nice when he got in trouble. I tweeted that I supported him, and I tweeted something pretty heavily supporting him, I think. Right. And then he hit me up and was very, very heartfelt message. And then he would just DM back and forth, and I'd run into him at the store, and he wasn't set up to like my style of comedy. Like he didn't like storytellers. He wanted you to do jokes.
Right.
He didn't like confessional comedy, which is all I fucking do, I think. And I'm shirtless. So I came off stage, and so
I like they put that at the end.
Yeah, and then I'm shirtless.
Like it was a special appearance, and I'm shirtless.
But the first time I met him in the store, he was like, so that's Bert Kreischer. And I went, it is. And he goes, that's good. And I was like, oh, thanks. But he was he was a fun guy to listen to talk.
Right. I did a lot of gigs at the Factory with him. He had that era after SNL, and I was there, and he was always in his hockey shirt, and he's just kind. But one of those people that you popped in the room, you wanted to know what he was going to come up with.
Yeah. He had a who's room full of comics one time at the store, waiting on his every word. Right. Like everyone was, and no one was speaking, and everyone was just watching him. He took a big hit of a vape pen, just goes, Bill Clinton's not a good man. And this tirade, and no one spoke. We were just like, oh. Yeah, it stinks, especially like Patrice, like that. I would love to hear what Patrice has to say right now.
Yeah, I think Patrice, I feel like he would have hit that stride. He looked like he was gearing up for. In my eyes, I always saw remember a Tough Crowd and shit. Like a real time Bill Maher. I always kind of saw like he could figure that kind of path out, to just be his voice and his, crew. And I think that Patrice would have had a really bright future. I wish he was still around.
I wish he was. I really do. I would love, because there was a fearlessness to him. I don't even know if it was fearless or just like, because he did have that I'm going to burn the bridge at both ends kind of personality.
Right. Be right in the middle.
How did you not? So
but not only that, but he had the material. He could kill on any given night. And some nights he would choose to just go up there and sit in it with a thought.
Yeah.
Ponder, try to make it almost like he's talking to one person, but it's the crowd as the other person. And judging from their response, he was finding his own belief system in whether right or wrong. The fact that he could do that, knowing like, oh, everybody's killing tonight, he's probably going to go up and do Malcolm XXL or one of his crushers. No, he'd just be like, I want to figure some shit out tonight. Wow.
Yeah.
Very few people could do that.
he was a very interesting person to watch work.
Right.
He
introduced me to Notorious B.I.G. He had the bootleg that he bought out of a fucking trunk, and he had a Sony Discman or whatever that was, and he put the headphones on me in Nick's Comedy Stop. He's like, "This guy's Biggie," and I remember hearing it for the first time before he was even on the radio.
Yeah.
Patrice had his shit out of a trunk. That's one thing I remember from hanging out with him.
Patrice and I were in Scotland, and I was listening to Jay-Z, and I was singing along, and he goes, "You're not singing the right words." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Do you know what any of these things mean?" And I was like, "I don't think so." And he goes, "All right, hold on." So we listened to that song, Beep Beep, and I'm picking him up, let him play with the dick in the truck, whatever that song is. We listened to the whole thing, and he would stop it, and he'd go, "Tell me what you think he's saying."
Oh my God.
And I would say what I was just making words up.
Right.
And he would be like, "No." And he's like, "Bert, this is a pimp movie." Pulls up in our house, and it's beep, beep, and I'm picking him up. Let him play with the dick in the truck. You understand what that means? And I was like, "Oh, I think I do now." Yeah, okay. Oh, he was a very interesting person.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I noticed that I did, and I saw people do it worse than I've ever done it. But when I got a little successful, I started running my mouth and sometimes telling people what I thought of them. Like and you never did that. Like you never. I see it happen. I've seen it happen a lot now that I know that I've done it, and I stopped doing it. But I see people get a little success, and then they start. I remember watching one guy. I'm gonna edit his name out. I watched him tell a comedy club owner, "Fuck you. You never worked me, and now look at you. Now look at me." And I remember watching that, going like, "Note to self, don't ever do that."
Yeah.
I never did anything that bad, but I definitely would like. Once you have a little success, you feel a little more comfortable being a little more callous with your words.
Right.
But you never did that. And you never fired back at people.
No, I didn't like to fire back at people because I don't like controversy, because that's where a lot of my anxiety also would come from.
Really?
Is getting like embroiled in something that, I just felt like, well, if I go up against this person, whether it's bullshit or not, then if their gang comes in, now I'm trying to fight a bunch of people. And then also like I realized early on, like that stuff puts your fans in a weird area where suddenly it's like they're having to defend you or take sides. And I just never, I always did my business on the side. Hey, can I talk to you about something?
Yeah.
And, but sometimes that made its way into the world, right? It's like sometimes that ended up on a podcast, or one way or another. It's like now I'm kind of like dealing with something that I wanted to keep it private, right? As a one-on-one. But yeah, never usually at the clubs or, in front of other people.
It's so impressive now that in hindsight, to think that you kind of stayed silent when people would say stuff about you or accuse you of stuff. You just stayed silent and just
can't fight lies. That's rule number one in life. I don't have kids yet. I'll teach them. If there's a lie, you take it. It's gonna suck. Eat it up. Take it on the chin. Other people believing it. The lie. If you start fighting a lie, you're fucked.
You're fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why. Like, what do they say? Like, you go into a courtroom. It's like you have to just sit. Here you're on the defense. You're not going to nod. Don't look at the jury. Just sit. Stare straight ahead. Why? I want to be able to let them know that No, if you shake your head even once at a lie, it makes it look like you're refuting and you're trying to deflect. And so just very early in my life, somewhere along the way, I used to like to read a lot of self-help books too. I used to go to like in New York and stuff. I'd go to like a bookstores always made me feel calm. I'd sit in an aisle, self-help aisle, and I'd grab fucking books and I'd just read behavioral things.
Yeah.
I was always interested in it. And that's one thing I learned early on. Don't. So when things came at me in comedy and people threw some shit at me, it was brutal. I wanted to call morning DJs like everybody else and be like, "Okay, yo, dude, I'm here now too."
Yeah.
But just for the sake of good radio, it wasn't worth it.
Yeah, it's funny. You find yourself if you're attacked wanting to defend yourself.
Totally.
I remember one time I saw some guy who's a big Bill Burr fan, a British dude, and just he was not a fan of mine. And I started watching it and it upset me. And I wanted to hit him back up and be like, hey man, like,
Yeah.
I think you'd like me if you got to know me. And he was just trashing me. And then I was like, all right, I'm done watching anything negative about me.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I think I did that bit on Isolated Incident about Googling yourself. And I think I was like, I go, after I got past the first page of a Dane Cook search, I was like, this guy's a douchebag. Like, I fucking hated what was being perpetuated. So I just chose through a couple of haymaker moments being thrown at me to be like, there's nothing I can do to fucking change it's already out. People say or do whatever. They could say, you know, whatever the fuck. And you're like, I could either meet this and make it more, or just take it on the chin and no, for me, I know the truth. I know the truth.
Yeah.
I don't need a morning DJ to be like, let's clear this up together. Like, as much as I wanted to sometimes do that for the sake of the press, be like, I want to fucking say funny shit, and haze each other verbally.
Yeah.
My confrontational anxiety kept me at bay with also the notion of like, unless this is really something I have to step forward and say like, yo, legit, like I need to make my voice heard on it.
Yeah.
It's not, I've never had something big enough that was worth having to really, I mean, I don't want to really go into.
No, but what's interesting is you're very lucky because you also haven't been doing 100 million podcasts for the last 10 years. You've kind of picked your moments to talk on podcasts. And I think, I mean, is that what you guys, and forgive me, but it's like, are you guys all finding now that like, I've heard some things about other comics where like they dug up an old clip and now they're in trouble in cancel culture. Are you guys finding it's tougher to traverse truth and even absurdity truth, which is like that fucking comedy level of we're fantastically bullshitting. It's like a simulator. We've put on the fucking Oculus. Oh yeah.
It's a joke. It's jest.
Yeah.
Are you guys and girls finding that it's like people are like have their knives out?
Or is
that only a small?
I think that's I think it's a sliver, but you could, I mean, I've said so much stuff on podcasts that I don't know what I said.
Yeah.
That like, you just go like, fuck.
Right.
If you just do it, if someone just goes and listens to an old episode, they'd be like, who the fuck is this guy? And when you isolate those out,
of course,
it just sounds.
Yeah. Especially when it's like you isolate it out and there's not only no ramp into what it is, they don't really know. Here's the thing. You're not a malicious, you don't have a malicious bone in your body.
Yeah.
You're not a nefarious person.
Yeah.
So if you know those couple of things and you do your due diligence, you realize this person's not coming from a place of hatred or negativity or pain.
Oh, me and Tom,
but we like to explore that because that's what, as comics, when the fucking tire hit Mary in the face years ago, this woman died at it was sad. It was awful. I dealt with it through humor. Yeah. I made a joke about it. There were people that were, that is terrible what happened to that. I know it is. I felt it. The only way I could explore seeing something that really hurt me was to find humor in it. Yeah. And that not everybody's wired to know that humor is healing like that.
No, not everyone is. And what made me I know one of the clips that made me laugh harder than ever is when Tom and I started our podcast. We said, let's run through a list of things people could pull out and take and put in and make us look horrible, like cancelable statements. And we said them all and we could not stop laughing.
Right.
And then we got done and we posted it. And we're like, that was probably a bad idea. Like they can now just clip out all of them.
Yeah.
But no, I
went through it with CNN. CNN one time filmed me at a club. I made a off-color remark about something that happened in the news the week before. And then there were people on a panel like, was this in poor taste? And when you watched it on CNN, you were like, yes. If you weren't in the room and you didn't know where I was coming from or where my heart's at, then there's millions of people who've never heard of me and don't know me or don't want to hear or know me and go, this guy's a fucking asshole. And then there's a narrative being written for you. And by the way, that narrative is almost like these multiverse Avenger movies where it's like, there's a whole belief system of you or me, and it has nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
And there's people subscribing and believing it, but it's not in any way tangible or relatable to us. It's not really us. It's a narrative. And it's just weird. You can't linger on it. You got to keep whatever. You got to fucking let it go.
It's crazy because you do. I mean, someone said, are you worried about what you say on stage? And I was like, I haven't even thought about that. And I was like, wait, was like, doesn't everyone knows that when the mic's in my hand, everything's a joke. Like my only intent is to make you laugh. You understand that? Like if there's a mic in front of me, my goal is that you're sitting in your office and you have headsets in.
Yeah.
And I want you at some point to try to hold laughter back. That's my thing. But there are people that are like, no.
Yeah. We were always I think we were groomed to believe that like, stand-up is like this neutral ground where, everybody understands that it's, there's no ill intent and people go, oh, it's like the jester with the king. And it's like, yeah, but every once in a while they got beheaded because the king was like, was that about me? And they just get, no, I swear, why would I make a joke about you? You're the king. And yet
every now and then they did get beheaded.
Yeah.
They're just,
they don't talk about that. We always talk about that silly hat with the fucking bells on it. And they seem like they could just sit anywhere like this and look at the king and be like, and get every once in a while the king and be like, yeah, fuck this guy. He's too loud. I think that was about me or the queen.
I don't like the props. Get him on prop that guy, kill him. Yeah, they killed jesters. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy.
And everything's such a microcosm. And also too, it's like, let's face it, once the internet became more than just that beginning stage of great promotion or a nice little portal.
Yeah.
Here's a portal to something that you don't have regional access to. Mm-hmm. Once it became what was underneath it in those comment sections and people had that power to like, come from just, their basement couch to riling up a fucking base of whatever.
Yeah.
It just became a whole different playing field, and especially for comedy. Comedy works best in the room with people that fucking know what's going on in real time. Yeah. It doesn't work as well on a delay where people get it secondhand. It's just not gonna. Imagine it's like people reporting jokes secondhand. People can barely repeat a joke the right way, for the right reasons, let alone, let me tell you what I heard somebody say last night and then putting their onus on it.
I remember when that happened to Daniel Tosh. He made a joke and then all of a sudden it looked really horrible. But I was like, I bet if you were in the room, there was some lightness to it.
Right.
And I bet it was like, and I remember I was the first person I remember having to apologize. That's like remembering that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, what the fuck?
I think there's only one thing that the microscope has done, which is it has weeded out early ignorance for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
Those comics are not going to have a shot. You can't be telling other people's truth. You can't be like, the way I see it, those people should do that. That's never been a great route or as interesting other than a shock value. I can't believe that person said that about those people.
Yeah.
In the room. That would never be your long-term career goal. Nobody ever got a show like, how you make fun of everybody and make them feel bad? That's your 8 o'clock show. So they're weeded out. And then young comics that I talk to now, or like if I'm on Clubhouse or whatever, first thing I say is like, there's really no advice for comics. I wouldn't tell you what to fucking do. I would just try to protect your integrity at all costs. Keep everybody over there.
Yeah.
But you got to report from your truth. If it happened to you, if it's words that you've said or have been said to you, you can observe and report that. Yeah. I think that it's all there. The way you interpret, you see something that we all see, you can have carte blanche to do whatever. But I don't think it's incumbent on anybody to be telling somebody else's truth, because that's just never going to come out. Nobody's ever going to be like, we all get behind that. The guy that's different from all of us telling us what we are, that's not going to be an easy sell.
Yeah. And it's so funny. I don't think I knew how old were you when you got your voice in comedy?
I think when I started like writing from experience was after I did the Comedy Central half hour shit. Yeah. And it was like bombastic and a fucking black tank top and I look like I work a Hot Topic. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm just like, and that whole experience was, it was great. It set me in motion, but also almost immediately I was looking towards comics that I grew up loving that I felt kind of maybe like got stuck in that moment.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was already a student of comedy and looking and saying, all right, which ones got unstuck and what did they do to I looked at Eddie Murphy quite a bit and got to share with Eddie years later when I met him that like him going from Raw to then doing, some early, some of his early, more family oriented stuff.
Yeah.
At that time, that was like sacrilege. Eddie's sold out.
Yeah.
But Eddie he knew he was growing up with his generation of comedy fans, and they were starting to have kids, or they were starting to see the world differently. And
Yeah.
so I realized after the water in the tank top, I was like, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
I'd done it on like premium blend. I was still super physical on the Insomniac tour with the Tell and those guys.
I remember you and Natel and Geraldo were in Vegas.
Yeah.
God, I just saw that picture the other day.
Yeah. Somebody sent it to me out of the blue.
Oh, you posted it. Yeah. I just saw that the other day.
Yeah.
And I was
After
like,
Norm passed, somebody, people like gets everybody very sentimental, obviously. And like, then people were sending me these great pictures they found from other, comedians that we've lost. And
so wait, go back. So you're high energy.
Yeah. Whirling Dervish, fucking Tasmanian Devil, whatever early review from the Boston fucking Herald said. And then I realized, okay, well, I love language and I love storytelling. Maybe I should start focusing a little bit more on approaching story from a more introspective place.
Yeah.
So when I got to Vicious Circle, so it was like 05, right? 06, I did a bit called the Crying Bit. And that bit was based on an anxiety attack that I had, based on a couple things that weren't straight up in the bit, but my mom was sick. My mom had cancer and she didn't come to the show that night because she was dying. She was in Florida, in Delray Beach, and she was like, I'm not good to travel. She never missed a Boston show I'd ever done. In my first and biggest, she was not there. Yeah. So when I went into the Crying Bit, all that came from a really real place of being sad. But I had to ring it out as comedy. The bit grew that night, and I did things that night on that stage that were not a part of that bit.
Really?
When I left the stage that night, I was like, oh my goodness, like that piece felt the best I've ever felt on stage. And I knew that was a turning point of like, I gotta like build up that confidence to share more personal experiences. That bit to this day is something that once a week somebody's like, sometimes people will write me, I've hit a low in my life that's really dark. And during my saddest moment, I think of that bit and I started laughing. Yeah. Because you're looking in the mirror and and there's a man crying and hearing.
I remember, yeah.
It's like all that stuff. Like I knew it made an impact that night. I told my mom the next day. I flew to Florida. I brought the raw footage. I showed her. I was crying, like showing her the Crying Bit. I was thinking about her during that bit and sharing it with, but we're laughing, but we're crying. And I just kind of made a promise to myself at that point, like, I'm not going to not explore my feelings on stuff. And then Isolated Incident, had stuff about my brother, my mom passing in there, haters, the email that I read where, somebody wrote some real fucked up shit to me. The worst email I ever got, like of a hater, like a real legit, angry, whatever, sinister email. And I printed it out and brought it on stage and was like, I'm going to read you what I got. I just want you to know what I'm dealing with, both on the good and the pendulum of both.
Yeah.
And so all those experiences, and then certainly Troublemaker, and then this next special that I'm filming at the end of the month is definitely my most.
You're doing it at the Wang, right?
October 29th and 30th.
That's going to be fucking great.
I love the Wang too.
I'm there for the first time.
The Wang, oh dude, you're gonna love it.
Yeah.
It's you done the Beacon in New York City?
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's like the Boston version of the Beacon.
Really?
It's raucous. It feels like a wave that's of people that's kind of like they're right on you. So I think it's a great comedy room.
So what? I have so much I want to talk to you about. So how do you feel? I did a larger venue than I've ever done,
right?
And then I went back and did a theater, and you don't want to say, hey, I don't want to do arenas, but there is something so precious about great theaters like the Beacon or the Chicago Theater.
It's the best place for comedy.
Right?
Yeah. Like a good club is the best place to jam, to be in the lab. And a 3,500 to 5,500 size theater, if it's built right with great sound, that's it. Everything past that is event, It's a little out of your hands.
Yeah.
It's like Steve Martin said in his book, Born Standing Up. You know, it feels like you're the ringleader in a circus as opposed to truly connecting and performing. Instead, you're just like keeping the thing fucking going.
Yeah.
You know, which is great. It's fun, but you wouldn't want it to be that way all the time. You wouldn't want to live in that space all the time.
Well, I remember watching you. I must have been Vicious Circle. Was that done in Boston?
That was Boston.
Yeah, that was Boston. And I remember watching that and thinking, not every comic could fill that venue.
Right.
Meaning not the people, but the
I was
energy.
from Boston too.
The energy.
The
energy, and like your act was set up for that. And I just keep thinking like I, you know, and because I'm also thinking to myself like, so where is my writing going, and where am I as I get ready for another special? Am I rewriting the same shit? I'm just rewriting it.
Yeah,
every
you don't want to
time?
be derivative. That's the key.
I don't want to be derivative.
Yeah.
But
if you change, you know, some people are going to be like, "What's this now?"
yeah, like they're like, no stories about your family, and I'm like, well, thought I'd do some topical.
What are you, David Renner now? Are you going to bring a newspaper up there? I brought the USA Today and my guitar. And my therapist is going to join me as well.
I can't even. I'm supposed to journal every morning, and it always turns into a bit.
Is it on an app or are you writing?
I write it. I write it.
All right.
I brought my journal with me to Austin, and I got terrified because I was like, I'm writing.
You put stickers on the top?
No, I don't.
That's weird.
I hit it.
Put some stickers on it, man. That's weird.
I hit it.
It just looks like you're going to fucking homeroom with your black and white covered journal.
I've always enjoyed my joke books to jazz them up a little bit. I've got one that's got all my European theater stickers.
Cool.
Like
all right,
all
that's
the backstage ones.
Yeah.
I've got one that
sane.
says The Machine on a fist.
Yes.
I've got one. I used to love decorating a good journal, but I haven't decorated this one, and I had to hide it because I was afraid Tom's son would find it, and he would. And
where do you hide your journal?
I hid it in the back of my backpack, and where the part where the computer is, the zipper
So
pack.
sad.
I was like,
I
was terrified. I was like, I should never have brought this fucking thing. If people got this, it would sell quicker than any book I could ever write. Then people would be like, this is awesome. He is legit crazy.
But you didn't write today.
I didn't write today. No, I was on the plane.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Did you
wait? Let me just say one last thing about the arena stuff, because I filmed every arena show I ever did, whether it was just a fucking camera in the room, or hey, can you pipe it in, or so I have like 140 arena shows, and I kept them all in a refrigerator here in LA. And I finally hired a guy to go through, and I'm basically putting together like all the fucking weirdest moments from arenas that I did.
Oh, wow.
It's not so much about it's like the Madison Square Garden and Boston Garden. Those are rough around the edges and vicious. I'm remastering those as well too. I'm going to put those back out with a little bit of the material that I cut from those two gigs. Yeah. In fact, I don't want to give it away, but the other 100+ arenas, like, dude, when you watch the footage, unlike, if you watch 100 arena theater shows, you'd be like, oh, this is a great show. Oh, I riffed a little bit here.
Yeah.
It's like every other night, it's like, here's a dude running on stage trying to fucking switch shirts with me. Here's a fight literally happening while I'm facing this way. These two fucking guys are in a fist fight, and the camera just leaves me and is just why the guy in the booth was like, fuck it, let's just watch the fight. We've seen the act. So those they were events. They're awesome. When you see like Rogan, Chappelle, and a fucking gang, of course, that's it's going to be funny. It's going to be an experience. Donnell's going to get up there and fucking get the whole place jumping around and rocking. But comedy in its truest kind of form, when you want the pauses and the introspective, and that the best punchline comes when that whole room is kind of like silently waiting, and then laugh.
Yeah.
And that's like Fox Theater shit, right? Beacon, Wang. You're gonna love it. You're gonna do great.
So can you look back fondly at certain arenas and go, I really loved or do they all kind of blend into one?
They kind of blend in, but some of my favorites were the old shitty ones that were like C grade arenas in like Edmonton, Canada, where you could hear the fucking pipes rattling during the show from underneath, like just some of the I don't even know, like hell gig arenas, I call them.
Yeah,
this arena is a hell gig. There's a small arena for me, 8,000 seats. This is a arena hell gig because it was going to turn into a pirate's den, to quote, I think that was Richard Lewis who once said that.
Yeah.
It's going to turn into a pirate's den, and my job is to just and keep it in, and then get him and hit him with something. And being a long form storyteller, I'm not a snappy joke guy.
Yeah.
So there are moments where I'm like, this is like a 7-minute fucking piece. And I know some people are like midway through turning their seat and talking, then they turn back. It's like, you have no fucking clue what I'm talking about at this point. So all those moments are going to be fun to kind of cut together. You could actually see me on a few occasions literally like look at the camera and say, I have no control over this right now. This is a prison riot.
Yeah.
This is a prison riot with a comedian in the very middle trying to fucking be like, don't kill any more guards. It's like, but you would always want to lean in, and if somebody calls and says, hey, you want to do a fucking arena show with me, because of that energy that you don't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
So it's a trade-off, right?
This podcast is brought to you by Manscaped. Do you know what's spookier than seeing a black cat on Halloween? Shaving your balls with anything other than Manscaped. I am old school. I started shaving my balls, I think, in the 2000s, very beginning. And I will tell you, back then you had to use clippers that were meant for hair, like your head or your beard. They're beard clippers. And you could chop your shit up. You don't have to worry about that, because with the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0, this finely tuned pube product features a cutting-edge ceramic blade designed to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 is easily the best ball trimmer on the planet. Oh, and did I mention that it's waterproof? Oh, and did I mention that it's got a little light? So when you're doing it over the toilet, you can see what you're doing, and you're not doing it in the blind. It's so great. I trimmed my beard with it. They've also got the Weed Whacker, and it is a nose and ear trimmer that provides proprietary skin-safe technology that helps reduce nicks, snags, tugs, and all those delicate holes. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code BERT at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code BERT at manscaped.com. Say trick or treat to your beautiful new Halloweeny with Manscaped. This podcast is brought to you by Athletic Greens. I absolutely love Athletic Greens. What I love about it is it doesn't have some grassy taste. You just take one scoop, throw it into water, shake it, drink it, and it ensures me that when I'm on the road and I'm on the bus, that I have all the health routines and nutrients that I need. It really is great for if you're working out, which I just started doing again. I'm allowed to lift weights. So one scoop of Athletic Greens and I'm all of a sudden I'm there. It contains 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food sourced ingredients, including multivitamins, multi-minerals, probiotics, green superfood blend, in one conveniently daily serving. The specific blend of high-quality, bioavailable ingredients in a scoop of Athletic Greens works together to fill the nutrient gaps in your diet, support energy and focus, aids with gut health and digestion, and supports a healthy immune system, which we can all benefit from at this time in the world, effectively replacing multiple pills, products, and vitamins with just one healthy, delicious drink. Make it easy. Athletic Greens is going to give you an immune-supporting free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase if you visit athleticgreens.com/Bert today. Again, make it easy. Athletic Greens is going to give you an immune-supporting free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase if you visit athleticgreens.com/Bert today. Again, simply athleticgreens.com/Bert to take control of your health and give Athletic Greens a try.
It's I feel like I don't know. I mean, I would love to do arenas, but I don't know.
Let's read your journal.
It's just,
Is it tucked somewhere hidden?
No, it's in my backpack in the house.
Let me just pick one page and read it.
I ended up talking about one of my things with.
I journal on my phone. You can read a page out of mine.
Do you really journal on your phone?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, quite a bit.
What do you journal about? Like just your feelings?
Yeah. Or you know what it is? It's like I'm big into relinquishing my power to things. Remembering that like I'm just another human on the whole ride, and it's never personal. Everybody's dealing with their own. So when I start feeling worked up and the walls are closing in, sometimes I'll literally be like, walls are not closing in. Walls are right where they were. This is me. And I'll just go through a few, easy steps and then find a place to masturbate, and then you're okay.
The other day in my journal, I tried to draw stickmen in as many happy positions as I could.
Stickmen?
Like I was just like, and I, write like a little goal to myself. And
Yeah,
I
this
just,
is creepy.
Yeah, it was
Like some Revenant
it's
shit.
Really, it's really, by the way, it is so creepy because you go, and I was actually wondering, could you get canceled for someone finding an old joke book where you wrote horrible stuff? Because I have lost a joke book.
Yeah, how about especially young boys, how about like all the shit we would draw as kids? You ever find like an old drawing? It's like fucking bloody hands and fucking knives spinning through space and
or dicks everywhere.
Yeah, fucking Cox, your name, and can I put Cox in my name? And like, it's like we're just fucking creepy, guys. It's like that. Yeah, you don't want your old journals or your old fucking drawings to get into the world.
I don't want them to Google. I don't want my Google searches to get out. Like what I Google.
Yeah.
If people could find out all the porn I've watched, like if they said this is your Pornhub history, I would be like, I bet there would be a lot of people going, I think he's gay.
Can I scare you right now?
Yeah.
It's all going to come out.
For real.
I'll tell you why it's going to come out. You ready? This is going to like make you go, oh, fuck. This is going to make you want to get on your computer and find old shit and get rid of it. Early days of comedy, you probably had Hotmail.
Yeah.
Right? Or you had something like that's fucking
AOL.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Like, but a Hotmail. And then there was 90 variations of that. Fucking free mail. At free mail. All of those accounts that you probably wrote a lot of fucking crazy shit back and forth or whatever.
Yeah.
They're still on servers, but those servers don't install new security measures like the current stuff that you're using. For a couple of years, they might add one thing or another that's like, oh, this is, but 10, 15 years later, all those old email accounts have security that's about this thin. So a program today, if they go, password search that old fucking Hotmail account, if somebody gets into that'd be cracked on the dark web in 30 seconds.
How has that not already happened?
It probably is already happening.
Yeah.
There's shit on the dark web.
I don't really know what the dark web is.
The dark web is like, like cryptocurrency and everything. Like crypto was developed in the dark web, basically in like human trafficking and fucking weird, gross shit as a form of currency that couldn't be
really,
easily, tapped or
someone
trailed.
just told me they bought mushrooms with cryptocurrency.
Well, now crypto's like become like it's above the board mainstream, and it's
but back then that was what that was.
Yeah, back then crypto was like the hinky way of being like, hey, I want to see some shit. Let me give you a fucking whatever cardboard fucking da-da-da. And so the dark web, which is kind of essentially like under like the early framework, like the Moors people or whatever they say live under Vegas or New York. There's like all the tunnels and there's fucking doctors down there and somebody ran electricity. There's like 3,000 people living underneath Vegas with their own fucking community. It's kind of like that version of like underneath the internet, and that all they do is come up and cherry pick people's iCloud accounts and whatever. And if you're one of the people that they choose to focus in on, then they fucking grab your stuff, and it's for public consumption on the dark web. Here's why you don't know about some of the things that are already on the dark web, because there's a code among thieves in the dark web, which is like, if we don't keep this within our own confines, if it starts getting out there too much, if we're reckless, they are going to come down here and fucking pour cement in this whole bottom of the fucking internet.
Really?
So they deal in trading cards and things that are probably not in the mainstream as understanding, oh, you got hacked, your stuff might already be under there. Your journals might already be fucking being passed.
Jesus, I want to go back and find my AOL account and find emails I wrote to people.
Yeah.
So I am certain I was unaware that they would ever come back. Like,
right.
I'm certain I said stuff like,
of course. We all said fucking, it's like, but that was part of the allure of being a comic early on. The shock value. So, it's ridiculous to look back and go, things that you wrote or said should not be weaponized against you, especially if you're a fucking comedian and the whole gig is, let me say something to make you go, oh, holy shit. It's like, that's the whole fucking gig. That's the whole purpose.
Me and Tom Tom's the guy that was one of the producer in Austin his name's Ennie, and he's a black dude. And he was saying to us, he was like, so wait, you guys have said the N-word? And Tom and I were like, yeah. And he was like, for real? And we're like, and I go, Ennie, I think I said it in front of you once. And he goes, no. And I went, hold on. I go, did you think that like, he's like, but you guys are good guys. I'm like, no, we're not using the word. We've said the word. I said, when I said it to Snoop, I said, he's like, you sing the N-word when you sing my songs? And I go, yeah, you didn't know that? And he was like, well, no, I just thought you wouldn't sing the word. You sing the, I go, Snoop, I bought the fucking album. I go, it's in my car. You think I'm not going to sing the word? I go, you out of your fucking mind. I go, I'm definitely singing the word. I go, I'm not going to sing it in front of you, but
was he okay with that? Ultimately,
no,
did he validate it with like, okay, I get it?
No, he was shocked, and then we're like, and he's like, but you guys say it with an A, right?
With an A.
And I was like, well, we've said it with an ER too. And he's like, what? And I was like, well, dude, it's just, I mean, it's like, and we were talking to him about it, and he was blown away.
Yeah.
And the thing that
he was probably blown away that you're just being very candid and honest as well about it, instead of like some people circumventing it and changing the subject.
Yeah, and we know him very well, and he's a friend of ours. And we were just going. And there was a bit I had about where the N-word was the punchline, and it was a fucking good bit. And but you had to say the N-word as a punchline, and okay. I wasn't comfortable doing it. I tried it a couple times, and it just. That word just is not a good word. And so Andrew Schultz told me, he goes, what you should do is just tell everyone, I have the bit where you got to say the N-word at the end, but instead I'm going to say pancakes. So when you hear me say pancakes, that's what you're going to, that's the
right.
And I did it on stage, and it murdered.
Right.
It murdered. And Tom goes, that's great. And I said, yeah, but the problem was, everyone came up to me afterwards, and they were like, man, I had 2 pancakes sitting next to me. And I was like, oh, fuck. I was like, I just can't. And Tom was like,
you're like, you want a picture?
Yeah.
All right, guys. Have a great night. Take care. You guys next.
Yeah. It was, and I was like, and my cousin Andrew, who you met, was like, well, he heard that, and he goes, you're done telling that bit. You never tell that fucking bit. You're not going to green light it's a dog whistle. You're giving him a new way to say something horrible. And I was
right.
Call.
But again, it's also like that's a huge leap from I'm gonna explore something in the room that I feel like I can validate with you understanding where I'm coming from, versus that clip that ends up as on a cell phone, on a website, in another discussion.
Yeah.
And then you're getting news reporters calling you saying, do you want to clarify? Clarify what? The tag that I wanted to write that I left out? Oh my God. I bombed in front of Snoop one time. I remember I did the MTV, one of the MTV whatever awards. And I remember Snoop was right after me. And this is like right around, everything was pretty white hot at the time, but I stepped in it fucking bad. It was like they were not there for me. It was not my gig. I had a jacket on that was too loud. You know what I mean? You try to like dress up a little bit like, I'm going to be fucking rock and roll tonight. I'm wearing like a fucking leather white jacket with a fucking red dragon on the back and I just remember I just ate it. And I remember coming off stage, and Snoop was literally walking out so he was watching the monitor, and I'll paraphrase, but it was pretty much like, man, that was fucking terrible. Fuck, that was awful.
Paraphrase.
Yeah. It was his version of that sucked. Like as we were passing each other, and I was like, flop sweat was just frozen right here. I was like, have a good gig out there, man. They're fun. Like some weird bullshit that you just say just for the fuck of it. Yeah, they're good. Yeah. They're lively. You just fucking go into your dressing room and kick over a fucking fruit basket.
Yeah. That was there a point when you started doing movies that you ever thought, I don't want to do stand-up again, I just would rather act?
Not that I never wanted to do stand-up, but I started to understand why certain people that I wanted to emulate were tapping out and moving their fans in a new direction. Because
like Steve Martin.
Yeah, and Eddie, you know what I mean?
Eddie,
and just understanding that like, at a certain point, the live stand-up comedy. I mean, I was watching Jerry Lewis do live comedy at 88. It still killed. He still had his fans and grandkids and their grandkids, and they loved it. And he did the typewriter bit, and there's always a place for stand-up comedy. But I think I was also I just was influenced at the idea of like, you don't have to stay on top of this one form of entertainment media. You can move your ability into broadcast, something like this, broadcasting, or into film, or I love being behind the camera. I directed something. I'm hoping to do more of that. So it's still like always going to be, because I love it. Quite simply, I just love it. I still wake up in the morning knowing, fuck, the Laugh Factory or gig or the Wang or whatever.
Yeah.
I am as excited to explore an idea, but I'm also putting that energy into other things pretty much equally as the stand-up these days.
Yeah. Did I want to talk about Mr. Brooks because that was a fucking great movie.
It really was.
I saw that on a plane, and I was like, and I wondered.
It was good
because I've only acted in one thing, but
the recent one that you just did, which I wanted to bring up, but I don't know if you're even probably allowed to talk about it at this point. Dude, how fucking cool, man!
It was very cool,
dude.
It was very cool.
Are you kidding me? I mean, for a number of the legacy, your story, all the work you've put in, but then you're with fucking Mark Hamill, man.
I know.
I mean, I'm not a bow down guy, bro, but fucking dude, that is legit. Like, congratulations, dude.
Oh, thank you, man.
I can't wait to see that, man.
We've seen.
Will it be sold on a blanket on a New York City street? Do you think?
I hope so.
That's where I purchase home.
No,
dude, that's
we've seen
dope.
We've seen two cuts so far.
Yeah.
And
wait, sorry. So this is your first acting, or you did something? You're referring to this.
This is the acting, like it's legit acting. Where I went,
right. There's dramatic elements to it as well as some antics and fun, and
Yeah, and I feel like I felt it's funny. Watching myself, there are certain things where I go, I want to act again because I now know what works well,
right?
And I go, I could do that better, and I want like a second swing at it, But I wondered if Mr. Brooks came easier to you than comedy because it allowed you to go to a place. It's almost like with comedy, they're asking you to do something you do so naturally that you're like, I don't know. And like sometimes you're like, I walk in and say, I'll say it, but I don't know if it's funny. But I found that if you asked me to tap into emotion, I could deliver a performance much better than just trying to be funny.
Right. Especially since like film comedy or even TV comedy, unless there's an audience, it feels like the polar opposite of what we are, Yeah. It's like all this work is going to go into probably one editor who, if they're not into my fucking rat-a-tat-tat, is going to be like, let me cut it here before he takes that little weird breath where you're like, no, the weird breath is what I need. That's the thing that does it. That's the fucking thing to the. Yeah. So I wouldn't say it came easy because I did have these years early in my auditioning career where it was like, I'd look back and I was just revved up. And they'd be like, you're moving, try to keep it in your eyes. And you're like, well, that's boring, right? Because again, live stand up, you're playing at the back of the room. And now suddenly you're just having to be like, let me tell you something. And it's like, this is going to be funny. How is this funny and interesting? This feels. But once I, worked on that for a number of years with some great, teachers and stuff. When Mr. Brooks came along, that was all like, Kevin Costner called me. I was in Albuquerque working on Employee of the Month. And he was like, I saw your tape. He's like, looks like you really put a lot of work into this. And I was like, and I immediately, because I didn't want him to hang up with that, I go, I've already got a backstory for this character. I'm putting on some weight right after this. I'm going to gain 30 pounds in like 3 weeks. I'm going to Chick-fil-A it for like 3 weeks. I go, I want to look like this. He's like, you're legit. You want to do this. And he's like, but once you're in the pocket with me, he's like, we going to bring the best out of each other for this. And I was like, hearing that from Kevin Costner, I'm totally invested. I go, I promise you, I'm not like a person who is going to try to be on stage every night and kind of sort of do it. I go, this will be my world with you for however many weeks in Shreveport. And he gave me the gig right on the phone.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Gave me the gig on the phone. And I remember our first meeting, sitting down with him, and he was, oh man, it was so cool. Because this is Field of Dreams, right? This is fucking Tin Cup. This fucking
by the way, Waterworld. I loved Waterworld.
Yeah.
I loved Waterworld.
Dude, fucking Wyatt fucking Earp is sitting in front of me. Okay. And which that movie, that's in my top 10 most watched movies ever that I've, got on repeat. So I'm sitting there with him and he's like, we're talking about like, the ramp up and full disclosure, like Bruce Evans is the name of the director on the movie, but it was really Kevin. I mean, Bruce was an amazing, kind of confidant, but like Kevin came onto the set and was like, we're going to change this. Take another hour, move those lights there, move this. Like he wasn't directing it by name, but he came in with all the ideas and knew how to set us up for like scene after scene. And the thing that was wild is that first conversation, he was like, we're going to get in there. We're going to like, we're going to improvise some stuff too, which I'd never known that you could do in drama, which is like, let's get in there and like, let's roll film on something that might be really dark and kind of sinister and see if we can, in our character, find something more and then ramp it. So he liked to improv, but dramatic. And then when we felt like we were really grooving, 5, 6, 7 minutes, and they're rolling, lights on, cameras, everything. Then he'd be like, let's go. And we'd go right into the scene. But some of the stuff, all the car stuff, we're getting amped up. We're going to kill the first couple.
Yeah.
All that stuff, me getting amped, that's all improv. That's improv. And then we cut right into the scene when the dialogue hits. So it was the most gratifying experience to work with somebody. And I learned, kind of like you said, how you're watching. And he let me watch things in real time. So I was doing something that felt gratifying, but I was also learning from one of the fucking legends of Oscar-winning directing and Dances with Wolves and right by and watching scenes. And this is why we want to do that again. And I'm sure you had that same high of like, I know I can do this better. I know we can create a more dynamic moment. Very cool. Can't wait to see you perform in that, man.
It's it should be. It's good. I mean, I've watched it twice now, and I'm horrible because all I do is cry in the screenings. I cry and I mouth my own words through the whole screen.
Did you see? Were you ever doing it on screen? Are you a you ever do that shit?
Oh no, I don't. I don't listen.
You're lucky.
I don't listen very well.
There's some pretty well-known actors and actresses, and you can see them kind of like, especially with comedy, because it's such a volley that they know it's like, I gotta double Dutch it right here, and you can see him kind of.
There's one scene where you can tell that I know Mark's about to talk because he hasn't spoken and I've already turned my head and I was like, can we? And they're like, no one else noticed it. And I go, I can definitely notice it.
Every show I watch, I will, if I'm sitting with you, like I was watching Only Murders in the Building, which is that new Steve Martin Short on Hulu. Yeah, really great series, by the way. If you like a great murder mystery, and Martin Short's fucking hilarious. I mean, really? they all are, but Martin Short just like comes into scenes and you know he's improvising, but the script is so great.
What's it called?
Only Murders in the Building.
And it's on Hulu?
It's on Hulu. Yeah.
I'm watching it today.
But here's what I do. I watch and I'm enjoying it, right? I'm watching it as a fan. I can always tell when an actor looks down to find their mark.
Oh my God. I did that the entire fucking movie. They would go, great take, Bert, can you not look at your feet? I'm like, sure.
You have to sit in a chair and it's literally like this. Yeah, let me tell you something.
I did that so much.
Yeah.
That, and you can tell sometimes I slide my foot to touch my mark. To go like, oh, okay, that's a good.
Yeah.
But yeah.
A lot of 80s movies, whatever. If you're watching like fucking Dennis Hoppers or a myriad of, they're all smoking. And the reason they smoke is they throw their cigarette down and crush it on their mark so they know where to stop.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Here's another little fucking hack that I learned because I worked with Betty White. Yeah. On the Golden Girls, anytime you see them go like this and look into their cup, or anytime they've got a sugar packet and their lines are written on it.
Really?
Yeah. Betty was like, we couldn't remember all our line changes, so we would put them on paper in the mug, and you see them go like this. They'd be like, oh, Blanche. And then they look, and then they hit the fucking joke.
Oh, shut up.
I know. I got 1,000 of these. I won't bore you. Like, we'll part two it. Like, there's tons of little hidden things you can look for in these movies that are like, they're reading their lines right off the fucking desk.
No, I had a weird ability I did not know I had, and that was to memorize lines very quickly.
Okay.
And so it was somewhat frustrating, I think, to the other actors because they change a scene, and I loved when scenes got changed. I was like, oh, cool. That means that we're working on it. It means that, that everyone was up last night.
That's right.
So we get new pages,
and it's a little scary, and we like to be able to stand up.
I like the
a little bit of like, oh shit, this might be tricky.
And Mark and my other actor were like, one actor English wasn't even her first language, so she's like, this is like very. I've got to learn how to say that.
She didn't say it like that. I'm sure she said it in her native tongue, and then
she is so fucking hilarious. She's one of the funniest human beings. I've ever
and she's in your movie. How great is it to say that? And it's like, and it's in my fucking movie. She has what makes her. I mean, look, I want everyone to see the movie, but what I love about her, I talked to her on the phone the other night with my wife. She is hilarious, and she did not know she was being funny. She had no clue that she was doing comedy at all. Right,
and
probably better,
and it's so much better,
and let it be in the writing.
Yeah, and we could not stop laughing at her. I taught her how to say, like when we first met, we were hanging out in Serbia, and there were just huge cultural differences. And I taught her how to say D's nuts. I taught her that joke.
Yeah.
And she was like, and just flat, like, huh?
Yeah.
Why is that funny? And I said, well, it's just.
Right.
I
And
said,
then you realize maybe it isn't.
yeah, maybe it isn't. And I said, and then I told her that, hey, you got a smatta baby on your shirt. And she goes, what's a smatta baby? And I said, nothing's a matta baby. And she goes, I don't get it. And it was fucking, she made me giggle so fucking hard. No Instagram.
Yeah.
No social media
And
presence.
is she like a big star in Serbia? Or
She's
like
Croatian.
more? Okay.
Yeah. She's but I think it's weird over there because things are done differently there. So like, almost like you go to the government and they give you a role.
Oh.
I'm sure that's not how it works, but that's kind of how it was told to me.
Okay.
And so, but yeah, she's great. It's
man.
fun to watch yourself, but I definitely.
Is there an ETA on when do you think it might be out in the world, or is it still?
I'm thinking like I have no idea.
Because Legendary was behind it too, right?
Yeah.
Hard work
But
pays
then,
off.
but I'd never had any interest in acting, and then now I'm like, oh, I want to work with certain people.
Right.
I want to watch people work.
Yeah, that's why I've enjoyed actually writing and being behind the camera a little more, and I've eased into that. But I'm gonna do a full feature that I wrote over the last few years, probably next if I can, after the stand up special. I just love that it's stand up is such a solo mission, right?
Yeah.
It's one time and that's it till the next show, and then you look at like the puzzle of a film and like, okay, like a group of people and we have one story and everybody's parts as important to get to that edit bay where you're like, it's all in here. It's so fucking exciting, man.
It's interesting. Directing is something that as this movie was very clear to me what I did want to do in the future and what I didn't want to do. And directing is something I do not ever want to do.
Really?
It is way too much. It's way too much bandwidth. Like there's so much you have to focus on.
Right.
There's so much. It's
There
such
is.
a job.
But you know what it also is? Every single person that comes to you with a question, to them, that question is the most important part of their day. They want to resolve something. So you have to have equal interest and availability and energy all day for your actors, for your crew, for the ancillary things that are happening.
everything.
But you know what? I fucking love it. You know why?
Really?
Let's bring it all the way back to the beginning of this conversation. That pressure, I don't have anxiety in that pressure. I'm better. My dad was an athlete. My dad, that's the one thing as his only son that he gave me that I can say is a true attribute. The pressure to perform when you're at the plate or when he was at the foul line, or he was a boxer as well. He wasn't afraid to throw the hit. And that's where I think he felt most together. And as a performer, when I have that pressure on me, that's still where I'm at my most comfortable. So the directing and all that pressure, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
But I like it because I'm out of my head and I'm only focused on making something.
I love pressure. I love pressure more than anything. When I did Secret Time, I fucking tanked my first show. I tanked.
Right.
And my buddy Tony, who produced it, was like, well, now's when we find out what you're made of, huh? And I was like, all right, let's do it. And it was just one of those things where it's like, where you feel like the ice skater who hits the fucking the trick. Right. And I feel like sometimes without the pressure, I'm a little bit meandering. I feel like but with directing, there was so much I didn't know about directing. Everything else, like I really, really could be a movie producer. I love producing. Right. That was fun. Where you just sit in the tent, watch takes, and you go, I think, what if we had him? Like, there's this one scene where I told someone to do. I was like, hey man, maybe in your performance, I told him this thing to do, and he goes, really? And I said, yeah. And it's coming. He doesn't see me as a producer; he sees me as a comedian, right, and an actor, and so he does it, and it kills. Right. I'm more proud of the things that I added in the movie,
but that's why potentially, producing, directing, it's like because you know how to talk to performers. Yeah. You're enthusiastic and you know how to like talk about it from a place of creativity as opposed to like just a place of you're a piece of my structure. Yeah. Which always I've done movies like that and you kind of feel like, ugh.
How many movies have you done now?
Wow. I don't know. I mean, that people saw that that were legit like out in the world. Like, I had like 10 solid movies.
The first one was Employee of the Month, right?
Yeah, Employee, Waiting, Best Friend's Girl, Mr. Brooks, Dan in Real Life, Good Luck Chuck, right? Yeah, and then a bunch of like Side Eye to London, like some good cool indies that like a Mr. Brooks that are people still be like, hey, I just saw this movie you were in. Like,
Yeah.
all right, you just discovered that. Great. But a bunch before I kind of stepped away from, the thing that I stepped away from was when we talked about when you're derivative, when you're looking at your new comedy special, like my next special, I feel like is embracing all the things that I know are part of my legacy of what are funny over 30 years.
Yeah.
But I'm moving into a new territory.
Yeah.
That's exciting to me. I think that's ultimately where you make more new fans, and the fans that are like long-term, they're going to go along the ride, right? Especially if it's funny. Even though at first they're going to be like, this is different. If it's funny, that's all that's going to win
matters,
at the end. So it's like the movies that by the time I got to My Best Friend's Girl, that was my favorite. We filmed it in Boston. I got to produce it in my hometown. And for a number of reasons, it just felt like this is the kind of thing I should be evolving towards. But then I wasn't getting good scripts. I was getting things that were going to pay me. And I was getting things that were like, people would pitch it like this. It's kind of like Good Luck Chuck, but now you're this. Or now you're time traveling, but you're, and it was like, oh, but that's derivative of the last few things
you'd already done.
So do I want to cash grab? No, because I could always do stand up. Stand up is going to always be there to like pay the mortgage if I need to fucking, if I'm really like, I gotta pay the fucking bills right now today. So it afforded me the chance to say no to some things that I just wasn't as interested in. And even though a movie like American Exit, which came out right before COVID, it's my best performance. It's like a Mr. Brooks. It's compelling. It's a psychological thriller. Was not a box office anything. It really didn't even, I didn't even know if it got like a wide release, but I'd rather do roles like that and continue to grow that because I have stand up when I need to get some shekels. But I didn't want to ever, just like the stand up, I was on a path of like, all right, I'm going to do a bunch more movies like this, and then I'm never going to get a chance to do anything else because people will be like, dude, you did 15 of the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
Nobody sees you as anything else.
By the way, I'm the exact opposite. I told Legendary I'd sign up for 4 more machines, and I'll just do those movies.
Whoa, wait a second. That's different because you're producing something that's also based on you. So, like,
but that's all I want to do is stuff that's based on me.
I know, but you're in great company. Trust me, that's a whole different thing than stepping into like, somebody wrote this for me.
Yeah.
Here it is. And yeah, I'm a producer on it, but like one of my last movies, last comedies, like I wanted to be in the edit bay. I wanted to be there. I know my comedy voice. I had a director who basically shut the door on me and was like, I got it. I'll show you this pass when I'm done.
Yeah.
And I was like, I respect guys like Sandler who has set himself up to go, I'm proving where my success is. And now I'm making the movies that I want to make with the people I want to make it with. I'm coming through for the bosses and the powers that be. That's the gig, man, right there. So
Sandler's setup is the goal.
I am content to be like lower level, doing things that I love, maybe less quickly than I'd like to.
Yeah. For
the sake of knowing when one of these things kind of like hits the zeitgeist again, people will at least be like, oh, thanks for not being a total fucking sellout, and now we can use you in more ways. And that's really the longevity of a career. Right?
It's so funny. I never thought of longevity until like I remember just thinking this business started out as for me, you get an hour and then just tour that hour for the rest of your life.
Right. Now it's like you get that hour, you do it, you never do that again.
Never. I mean, what a waste. I have some really good jokes that I just will never tell again that, by the way, I don't know if I can write better ones.
But people can see them. Like once it's you got it on the album or that, great. Now you opens you up to some new story or whatever it is,
We were talking about this. Me and Tom were talking about it yesterday about there's jokes I have that I really like. When you crack a joke and you go, when you crack the code and you go, oh shit, that fits perfectly. That ending,
right?
I didn't even see that at the beginning. I fit, and you go, whoa,
yeah.
And then for the
Can't wait to do it again.
Can't wait for the next month. You get excited to start the joke, and then you're like
knowing where it's going,
and knowing the thunder, knowing that you're gonna get to take a sip of your drink when you're done with it because they're gonna be losing their fucking mind. It's my favorite. I have like, and then I was like, Tom goes like, "What's joke?" I go, "I don't remember any of them." I couldn't tell you that. I was like, I got a great deodorant time travel joke that I loved that joke. I love this joke. It was 2 different jokes. And then I got drunk in Calgary and I fucked it up.
Okay.
And I told I told the wrong part at the wrong time. But in the middle of doing that, I realized, I could just get rid of this chunk and turn it into
So
one
happy
joke.
accident turned it into one bit.
And it was an applause break. And I was like, what? And I got done. And this kid, I wish I knew who this kid was. I really do. If you're this kid that worked with me in Calgary, hit me up. The guy was so fucking talented, so funny. He'd only been doing stand-up 4 years, but his insights were like that he'd been doing it 20 years. And I said, that fucking deodorant time travel joke's amazing. And I was like, yeah, they clapped. And he goes, yeah. I said, but I've never had anyone clap. He goes, no, we knew it was over. And I was like, what? And he goes, when it was done, and we were like,
yeah,
that was good, man.
Yeah.
That was good.
Right.
And I was like, oh. And then I got a little nifty. And every joke had and thank you. And this is my dismount.
How about when you have a great bit that you never recorded anywhere and then you forget it for like years, and then one day you say something that's similar to the joke and you go, wait a second, I have a bit of holy shit. And you remember a chunk that you might have just like lost along the way. That happened to me. I was going to shoot my special before the pandemic. I've had 2 start and stops, which sucks because that's why even like the tickets for October 29th and 30th, people are like, is this going to be legit this time? Because pandemic and one other start and stop. And it's like, if I hadn't had the pause, I wouldn't have remembered this piece from like 4 years ago that I was like, that's the one thing that I want at the center of all of this.
Yeah.
So this one thing that wouldn't have been there had I done it last year is now going to be the center of the new set.
Oh.
And I'm even more, I'm like, we're in that, I can't wait to say it.
Yeah. I get so excited.
And I did the Wang end of 2018 or beginning of 19. And that is such a great fucking venue, especially for like anything kind of like long form. It's awesome. That gig is killer.
See, I remember thinking, it's so funny. I remember thinking when you were like, you did your second theater, you did second arena tour.
Right.
And I remember thinking, God, man, if I was him, I would do this, I would do that. Like I'd go to Boston, be there for a month and just be at the Wilbur every single night. And then you like, I've never done an arena tour, but you start going, oh yeah, now I know why he definitely didn't do that. Like you just want to also live a life. Like it's funny, all the things I would watch you do.
Yeah.
Because no one was really doing what you were doing. And I'd be like, man, if I was him, I'd drop into the fucking every club every night. And now you can't get me to do a spot.
After the second arena tour, right? After that whole era, it was like 2010, 11, we're going through housing crisis. I'm going through all that stuff we don't need to get into with my brother. I had come off of 12 straight years of never having any time for myself because I put everything into always the schedule or performing or my relationships, my family time, everything.
Yeah.
Was almost like, wow, I'd given so much to this that I need to kind of grow and understand, like, really, where am I at as a fucking man, as a human being? And so I was content at that moment to be like, I did everything. I did it. I did that.
Yeah.
And I know everybody's going to go like, is he going to keep doing it? What's next? Is it going to get bigger? Is it going to, and for me, it was like, no, I explored this. I'm happy with how I, accomplished it. But now I'm taking some time for myself. And when I gear back up, it'll be at the right time to hopefully catch a new wave. Doesn't need to be a wave that big. If it gets that big, great. We'll figure it out when we get there. It won't be the same, but it'll be something exciting because I'm enjoying a new endeavor. But I also think when I look back, it's like I didn't have a playbook, and a welfare kid from Boston was suddenly the biggest comic in the world in the flavor of a decade, not just a month.
Yeah.
I ran it for a fucking decade and knew when this part's over, I should just be like, thank you very much, everybody. That's my show.
Yeah.
And go on to the next, whatever that might be.
Oh, I told Leanne, I don't mean to cut you off, but I told Leanne, I go, she's like, you're killing yourself. Like but I tour really aggressively where like I get on the bus October 6th and I come home October 29th and we're doing shows every single night.
Right.
And the 2 nights off, I fly into Austin to podcast twice in October. And then I have 3 days off in October is technically. And I said, hey, listen, this isn't going to last forever. It doesn't, there's going to be a time when ticket sales drop, and I go, and when that happens, I want to be cool with it. I want to be like, hey, awesome guys,
Yeah.
I'll stick on my podcast. I'll do some guest starring roles, and I'll still do stand up. I'll do some smaller venues, and I'll do whatever. But like, I go, you just gotta. And I that's interesting that you say that you at 10 years you went, all right,
Totally.
And could you I remember. Are you in the same house you bought? Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you enjoy that house? Can you sit and go like, yeah,
Yeah. I love my home.
yeah?
Yeah. It's similar to the apartment that you came and hung with me.
It's the greatest apartment.
There
that was the greatest apartment
Yeah.
in the world.
Right.
There was no Barry Katz. I was driving up. I don't talk good enough about Barry Katz often enough because he was a very
He was my manager at the time.
he was both of our managers, and he was so instrumental in setting a foundation for how I was going to look at this business. And he did so many good things. But one of the things he said is, there's two types of people, Papa. There's people who get an apartment out here and get a cheap car and they sock it away and they're just here for a little bit. They go back to New York. And then there's people like Dane. And Dane wants to enjoy his life. He's got a great car and his apartment is amazing. Got to pick which one you want. And I remember going like, I want to be like Dane. And then I went to your apartment. I mean, can you tell it to Halston? Halston has never been to this apartment. Can you explain the building, explain the location, and explain the apartment? This apartment was so fucking great.
Southwest corner, Crescent Heights and Fountain. The building was 90 some odd years old, and it was like the oldest edifice in West Hollywood for, that almost 100 years. The building had every walk of life in the entertainment industry come through it. Steve Martin lived in the building. Tarantino lived in the building. Bette Midler lived in the building. The Kennedys had a suite where they used to bring broads up when Jack and John were gallivanting around. This building, Belushi was my apartment before Bette Midler. Ready? Belushi, he had it, passed away up the street, obviously, but that was his apartment when he'd passed away. Then Bette Midler, and then I was the next person after a brief, my good friend Richard stayed in there, held the apartment, and then I got it from Richard. The ceiling in the living room was 30 feet high, and it had the original wood carvings from 100 years ago going across the top. It looked like when you see like a Viking ship, and it's like this beautiful carved, woman structure over the... That was all across a 30-foot French windows with the blinds, those the rickets, right? Every single room in this apartment had like a feeling in it that you weren't in LA. One felt like you were looking out the back and you were in New York City. Then you go in the living room with the high ceilings, you felt like you were in like the south of France. It was fucking magical. And I would wake up in the middle of the night with a deep desire to play blues music, which I'd never played before. And I swear it was the whole Belushi energy that was in that place. I kept the walls painted that he had painted blue-black that Bette Midler had actually kept. So Belushi had painted the walls himself, the landlady said. Everything about this place was magical. When I moved in, I could not afford it. I was in...
What was it? How much was it?
It was like $3,200 a month then.
Wow.
How many bedrooms?
Yeah. Master upstairs. So stairway up, bathroom, downstairs. There was a bedroom that I turned into an office. That's where we would hang in.
Yeah.
And then a little dining room. There was actually a dining room. And then the kitchen. And then the back balcony or whatever. And then the living room was just like, you just want to be in it all the time.
Yeah.
It was fucking, when the sun was coming through, you just stand in the fucking sun of a 30-foot window.
3,200.
Okay. 3,200. Dude, I could not afford this place. And yet I knew if I live here, I'm going to work harder. It's going to bring everything out of me because I want to stay. I ended up living there for 10 years before I bought the house that I'm in now. The house that I'm in now had the same kind of, it spoke to me in the same way that apartment did, of like, I need this. This is where I need to create the next part of my life from. But it's funny because I went through there recently because Richard still lives in the building, my good friend. And that apartment was empty. And so I walked through it and was like, wow, man, everything happened from that apartment. A lot of things changed in my life, mostly good in that place.
That apartment.
Yeah.
I remember
it was like an old manor.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I remember you telling me that apartment had good energy and it was good luck and you didn't want to ever leave it. And I it's like funny the little things you hear, because I'm a firm believer in luck. I believe in luck hardcore, and I'm the luckiest guy in the world. But my house that we lived in for the other house, that man cave was good luck,
Right?
And I wanted to, I so badly wanted to, like, and I know this is stupid, but I wanted to find a young comic that just started his family and be like, hey, let me help you out, like. Let's build some more luck.
Right.
And then like just give it to him and go, but you got to give it to another guy.
Got it.
Like you get your kids into high school. Once you get into high school, you got to get out, man.
Gotta get out.
Yeah, but there's no way you can do that. Leanne's like, you're not giving that to fucking anybody.
Right.
It's like, what do you? This is how you accrue wealth. We're trying to retire, motherfucker.
But that idea of like being in some place that you're in a little over your head. I'm a firm believer that the universe, you need to keep things moving. I don't believe that for whatever reason, the energy that's around us, I don't think you can sit and go, I'm just going to sit here and protect myself. You could go, if I just stay in this, everything's set up, something in the universe, something in the world will finally be like, guess what? There's a swamp under here. We got to move you. You got to keep moving. You got to keep yes, I believe in luck, but I also believe like all the work that you put in created a moment where when luck found you, it was like, okay,
you're ready.
Got the goods.
It was, you know what it is I didn't realize this. And I talked with Joe about this. I used to get upset when I'd hear people talk, and Kevin Hart's the guy I'm talking about. I would get upset when Kevin Hart would talk about how hard he works. I was like, yeah, but you got, like, I remember thinking, you got to be lucky. There's so much luck goes into it.
Because if you don't hit that zeitgeist, and that's a lot of luck, and that's a moment where everything's kind of like, we're interested in that. Yeah. Then right. All the hard work isn't going to be shown.
I didn't realize how hard he has to work to do what he's doing. Right. I don't think it was an ignorant viewpoint for me to look at him and to not applaud his hard work. So I was like, because once you do a movie and have a tour, just those two things, a tour and a movie, and just those two things, it's a tremendous amount of work that goes into those two things. Right. Promoting those dates, doing this movie, producing a movie, going to all that. And I was like, and I just was like, I don't know what I said last night, but I'm pretty sure I said something
Joe.
to the effect of, I'm very sorry.
Can I side item also say, because it's so easy to skip past, like when I was doing everything in the beginning, there was Joe. Joe was one of the only other people that I went a MySpace route. Joe had the most ballsy fucking website. So I think sometimes Joe gets overlooked at the beginning. Obviously, where Joe is, he's a fucking mogul. But he had, he'd had the success from News Radio and Fear Factors. Yeah. But there was me early MySpace and playing on PC. We'd play Quake 3 Arena. Rogan and I would play, certain video games that we would play. But his website was fucking. He always had his forum, and he already had like the alien thing with the. He was another person that kind of saw the forest through the trees. Yeah, I think I was fortunate. Like the social media aspect spoke to me more. Yeah, at that time, but I don't think he gets enough credit for early adopter.
You, him, and Stanhope were my three websites I go to.
That's right. You, fuck, him, Doug too, man.
Doug was
Doug was on there quite a bit. Yeah,
Doug had a amazing blog. An amazing blog.
Wow.
I would read those all the time. Him and Joe, they would write blogs, and they'd be beautiful, and they'd be like, and then I remember Travel Channel asked me to do a blog, and I went, fuck yeah. And it was so not what they wanted. I was definitely cutting from that same cloth as they were. But like Stanhope's blog was like must read for me. I remember he wrote a blog one time. I think about this all the time. He got in trouble. At a comedy club for making some lady complained and sent him the complaint. Okay. And he posted her complaint and his reply. And his reply was, ma'am, I am just as upset as you are about that performance. When I got the script for the show, I didn't want to tell any of those jokes, but the manager told me you have to read the script verbatim or I wouldn't make my money. And then the woman wrote back, I knew it couldn't have been you. Oh my God. I'm going to file a problem with a bed. Like his just mischievous ideas of comedy were so.
And prolific. You know, even early on for what kind of his identity was, you know, on stage, you know, people looked at Stanhope then and brash and the beer with the cum finale and the whole thing. And yet his writing was really like sharp. Oh, I mean, it is to this day. I think he is like, you know, in a lane all his own, which is a great lane to observe.
Yeah.
But back then, man, it makes me want to go back and read some of his stuff, because you'd be like, fuck, man, he is a savvy, smart motherfucker.
Really smart. Like really, really. His book is one of my, his writings are some of my favorite. I love his books. And he's just such a, and he, you know, there's two types of people. And I think me, you, Stanhope, Rogan are in this group of like true comic spirits, meaning like you're always thinking about silly. You're always thinking about the funny. I remember calling Doug up one time. I go, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "Well, I'm having a grapefruit and vodka, and I'm trying to write knock-knock jokes." And I go, "What?" And he's like, "I don't know. I figure we could be able to do that, right?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, man. I can sit in my backyard and just write knock-knock jokes." and all my knock-knock jokes were horrible. But it's such a like, it's such a, to go back and look at what you and Joe and Doug were my 3 websites I'd go to.
Right.
And Jim Norton, eatabullet.com.
That's right.
I never forget that. I'll never forget that.
What about Cringe Humor? Remember all that stuff too?
I met all those. They hated me. They hated you. They hated Gary Goldman.
Yeah.
They hated everyone.
And I loved that, because it was at that era, being kind of like the belle of the ball.
Yeah.
And yet knowing the comedy spirit in all of us is like, no, we got to go back to a table and talk shit and be fucking like, you know what I mean? Like nobody should be celebrated as much as at a certain point. So I'd go to Cringe Humor and read all that shit.
Oh man.
Just to be like, oh, these motherfuckers are coming at me. It was kind of fun.
I did Last Comic Standing too, and they destroyed me. And then I met them all. I know them all. They are,
Patrick and all those guys. Yeah. Good
and then
dudes.
you meet them and they're good dudes. And they're like, yeah, sorry about that, man.
Yeah. They were, if you think about it, they were the early version of like, hey, we're taking a new path. We're not stand-ups in the traditional sense. Yeah. But we are interested in obtuse ideas and words. And so that Cringe Humor stuff was like their next the next generation of like using the internet to get your whatever point you're trying to get across. Yeah. And they were doing that. That was a wild west page, but it was a lot of fun. That Cringe, I haven't thought about Cringe. Yeah. But it's so funny that, well, you said Norton and they Eat a Bullet, and it was like, and then he had Yellow. It was Yellow Discipline. Yellow Discipline. Oh my God, that whole era, man, was fucking wild. It was crazy because I remember seeing Cringe. Gary Goldman hit me. I was on the top 10 worst comics of all time Cringe Humor list. Gary Goldman, if I'm not mistaken, wrote them a letters chastising them. Gary Goldman is one of the fucking funniest dudes. When you know him as a friend, there's certain, he called me to the one time. Well, I made a very unwise decision. I said, what's that? He goes, well, I'm done drinking coffee. I go, why? He goes, well, got a little jacked up on coffee and decided to give Comedy Central a call. Oh. I go, what? He goes, I asked them why they hadn't given me a half hour yet. And I go, Gary. He goes, I don't know what got over me. He goes, Bert, it seems so simple at the moment. Just going, yeah, why wouldn't I call them? If you'd want a job, you'd say, hey, I'd like to apply for this job. And he makes me laugh. And I love what he's doing right now. He wears his heart on his sleeve. But really there's also a dagger on the other sleeve that he's just as willing to. Oh, what he's doing now, it's like, I mean, talk about somebody who had different, his voice to what his stand-up was when he first did the first Tonight Show, and yet like where he's grown into becoming more like personal. It's amazing. It really is amazing. And I, you know, he was the first person that was honest with me about mental health. Like where he was like, we were in Houston and he told me, this is what I'm dealing with. He had everything at the time. He was he was on Last Comic Standing. He was selling anywhere he went. And he was just super honest with me. And I was like, I didn't grow up around guys that were honest about shit like that. Right. And I was like, wow. Yeah. I remember him calling me one time after, he'd been in a pretty, tough spot. And I remember that conversation being with a man, one of the most personal, real, revealing conversations. Yeah. Because he had shared something with me and I mean, the fact that he then figured out a way to merge his truth with where his stand-up was going is like, that doesn't happen very often, man, where somebody can really like grow right into their act in such a pure way. Usually it's like, oh fuck, I want to get all the way over there. Are they going to go with me? But he has literally grown into like that present performer that we're talking about. The next special should be about what you want to talk about right now.
Yeah. I just dawned on me. What a fucking Fab Five you came out. You got your starting class, your freshman class.
Yeah.
Is Bill Burr, Patrice O'Neal, Bobby Kelly, Gary Goldman. I mean, technically Rogan's just a little bit older than you guys.
He was in our graduating class in front of us, but we were gigging with Joe. He was
that
hammering
five right there is like, I mean, it's inarguably five of the best comics working.
I think that we knew that the door was closing on the comedy scene, and I think that you had a bunch of us, and there were others that, you know, unfortunately sometimes life gets in the way, but we were grateful that we still had some of the boom of the 80s hanging. There was stage time. But I think we all kind of got that feeling like if we don't figure it out here in the next few years, and then this boom kind of finally ends and all these places were starting to slowly close, we might never get out of here. And there were other people that had never gotten out of there. And so it was incumbent upon all of us to be like, come on, man, fucking do better. What the fuck? What are you doing?
I remember watching you, in LA, and you're the first person I ever saw that I keep bringing it back to ice skaters. But remember, like sometimes when you watch an ice skater, you're like, I hope they don't fall. You're the first person I ever watched. I was like hitting the person next to me, like, by the way, he's not going to fall. This is going to be fucking amazing. You're the first person. And then I remember going back to New York and working the door at the Boston, and seeing you at the Boston, and I was like, well, everyone falls in here. And you did this thing that was the fucking funniest. There had been a hole in the ceiling that everyone made a joke about, and then you go, what is up there? And it was like a dead room, and you just walked up and you're like, hey, tell a joke. You go, what is up there? And do you remember that you put your hand up there and you went, oh! And everyone thought something got you, and we were crying. And all of a sudden you took a dead room and was something silly, and I went, fuck, he never falls.
I remember committing to the whole thing after that I was like, all right, that's a go-to.
Yeah.
And I remember I always committed so hard, like performance-wise, that I would leave there sore because I fucking overcompensated and tightened all my muscles, or, you know, slipped a disc or whatever I did. But that's the whole thing about, like, I got to figure out a way to make something real and funny happen right now. Esty at the Comedy Cellar, I remember the first night she put me on, she's like, honey, one thing, just don't touch the pipe. There was that old pipe that used to be at the Comedy Cellar that hung right over the stage. I fucking grabbed it. Next thing you know, she comes in, I'm upside down hanging on it. And she was either going to hate me for life for that, or thank God, the best hug I ever got in my life was when Esty hugged me and said, you come here now, and like welcomed me, really, like with the most like loving New York City is welcoming you kind of hug.
Yeah.
And I was really thankful, but I made sure all those sets counted. Every single set, late, the nights Rock would bump me. I got bumped by Rock quite a bit. I'm sure we all did. Like he'd pop in and, you know, okay, great, I'm going to be on later. You had to make every single one of those sets count if you wanted to be in the long game.
I was in Hawaii. I was selling tickets. I don't think I had done a Netflix special, but I think the machine had gone viral, and I was selling tickets. Any club I was going to was going to sell out. And I was in Hawaii at the time, obviously. And I was in Hawaii with my family, and I was going to do DC that weekend. And I'm sitting on the beach in Hawaii thinking I'd already sold out all the clubs my whole year was sold out. All the tickets were already sold. Wow. And I was in
Hawaii.
And I'm in Hawaii celebrating with my family. We're in Maui. And I get a text from Esty. And I started, and she said, I wonder if I still have it. It was a text from Esty, and she said,
can you do Friday, Saturday at the WA?
Hi, I'm Esty from the Comedy Cellar. Robert Spikes speaks very highly of you. Says you need to be headlining our room in Vegas or at the Rio on Wednesdays. He also says you're on vacation, so instead of calling you, I'm texting you. You also are more than welcome to work our club in New York. And I'm sitting, and then by the way, this is like, I mean, you could. I'm not even going to read mine because it's so embarrassing. But it's like, it's clear. hi Esty, it's such a big, I think I said
Oh,
something
your
about
your
gnome.
response?
Yeah, my response is
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
is like, but I remember being on the beach in Hawaii. And I just start crying. I go, I'm past to the cellar.
Right.
And my wife's like, honey, of course you are. You're fucking selling and I go, no. Esty just said that I should be working. And then Leanne's like, you're already doing Vegas. And I go, I might cancel it to do the cellar. And then I was like, I need to get to New York. She was like, why? I go, I got to work the fucking cellar, babe. And she was like, could not understand it. I was like, you don't know. This is fucking Esty.
Yeah.
And then I ended up calling her and talking to her from the beach. And
can I tell you my version of that, which is, kind of the same way you ping my heart with, because I love that you have that, by the way. That's awesome. For me, it was, so Mitzi never saw me at the store. And Paulie called me up one day and said, my mom just did something that she never does, totally unprecedented. And I said, what's that? And he said, and also, I think like the word was out that my parents were ill, but my vicious circle was blowing up. But yet the word on the street was that I was dealing with some hardship. And Paulie goes, my mom passed you without seeing me. He goes, and she's only done that one other time. He said, so you're a paid regular at the Comedy Store. Per my mom, you're invited here anytime you want to come through. We'd love to have you. And they knew also too, like, the factory would give me a shot. The factory was putting me up weekends when, nobody else was, gave a fuck. And so I did say to Paulie, and I was like, oh my God, like I wrote this beautiful long email that I said, give me your email. I want to, and I never got to thank her personally, but it was that moment of like being recognized that the work went to the comedy cellar, right? The heart and soul of comedy, the same way in some ways you could say like that. And of course the factory, and to be reached out like that through Paulie from Mitzi was like, I'll never forget that feeling. I could have had everything booked in the world. Yeah. But if she said, can you come down on this Wednesday? It's like, yes.
It's amazing that like you can have everything in the world. You could sell out all your shows at the Wang, and then all of a sudden you get like a text from someone that matters to you in comedy, and you're like I'm. And by the way, what's so funny is I think I ended up talking to Esty on the phone. Gnome, I'm saying the right name, right? Gnome was her brother. Mm-hmm. And Gnome had passed me like 10 years before.
Right.
And I was like, but the fact that it was Esty texted me,
you're like, the statute of limitations has ended on this Gnome, and I got repassed.
But Gnome passed away, and I couldn't like go to, just so you know, one of the things your brother said before he passed was, hey, you're passed also. And I was like, that's crazy. So wait, have we been doing 2 hours? Okay, hold on. We should wrap this up. I want to talk. You're going to the Wang. You're doing your new special. You're shooting it
October 29th and 30th. The tickets are actually on sale now, and I want people to know, because the tickets this time were like a little start and stop because of the 2 pauses before. The show is happening. I'm filming my next special. So
do you know what you're wearing?
Do I know what I'm wearing? Yeah, I actually have a couple outfits in mind.
That is the most stressful thing that I don't have to worry about.
I had to think of that earlier.
Worry about it at all.
I already knew earlier, before even decoration or whatever the fuck. I was like, okay, I pretty much know what I want to wear. Because of the same exact thing. My sneaker thought would be like, what am I wearing for fucking sneakers? But 29th, 30th tickets on danecook.com now, or Ticketmaster or whatever. But I cannot wait, man. I'm excited.
Dude, congratulations. I'm so
congratulations to you, dude.
Thank you. I thank Dane. I'll tell you very candidly. The fact that I can call you my friend and is a real honor, because I remember showing up to LA and watching you. You're the one person that just redefined what we were doing, and that you were doing things at such a different pace than all the other racehorses that I remember going like, fuck. Like, and I remember thinking I'll never that's too fast. I'll never do that. And I will say that I don't, one moment of my promoting myself or how I run my business, I don't tip my hat to you, because you changed the game, dude. And we are all still stealing from you, like, consistently. So thank you.
It means a lot to hear from you. And I'm really proud of you, man. From all the way back to Howard Johnson's in Times Square and that original Rolling Stone article. And I mean, it all, it all, as Johnny Carson once said, there's going to be a time in your life and in your career where it's all going to matter. Everything you've ever learned is going to come into one moment and one time. And you really did that, man. You waited for your moment, luck, and you were prepared for it. So honestly, thanks for having me. Thanks for shooting the shit,
dude.
And I hope we get to do it again soon.
Fuck yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
All right, man.